Very happy to see you all. Super excited to present one of the innovations that came out of our Phiture AI Labs program over the last 9 months, which is around ASO automation and how to scale A/B testing natively in the Google Play Store. A little bit about myself. I founded and sold 2 online gaming companies. After that, I led a growth team focused on international growth and also App Store optimization at SoundCloud. And since 7 years, 7 years ago, I founded Phiture, a mobile growth consultancy and agency over in Berlin, together with Andy. I'm here today with Matheus from Wildlife Studios, who can introduce himself.
Yeah, Matheus from Wildlife. We are a gaming company. We have several titles, including like Zuba, Sniper 3D, Tennis Clash, War Machines. Most recently, Midas Merge also, and several other games. Been working with ASO, leading those live games itself, and so it's been a pleasure working with Phiture to automate our ASO experiments.
Awesome. Yeah, so I really see this as a new way of doing App Store optimization. Like, I've always been super into App Store optimization. I even wrote a book about it. But like over the past couple of years, there was not that much new coming out of like ASO and the way that we approach it. I think a lot of people are now doing this really at top class. But I think like what we're seeing with PressPlay is that it actually really presents a new shift in how we approach App Store optimization. And I think you can see that from the results with the Wildlife Studios team, where we, in an 8-week pilot period from, I think it started in October, ended in December, and it's now extended. But in that 8-week pilot, we deployed 168 experiments, tested a bunch of different variants, and drove 12 million projected installs for across their different game titles. And notably, like the pace of testing, getting to learnings quick was really what set this apart, and why I think it's a very important new way of doing App Store optimization in the Google Play Store. So what it is basically accelerated Play Store experiment testing. So within the Google Play console, you can set up store listing experiments, and you can basically test the icon, short descriptions, feature graphics. You can test your screenshots. And we developed a technology to automate all of that with the help of generative AI. So what we can touch is, for example, with Gen AI icon tests, feature graphic tests, and the short description in many different localizations. And we can also A/B test the order of the screenshots. And we'll go into each of these in a second. But it's really, running deploying these experiments natively in the Google Play console environment, monitoring those experiments on an hourly basis, killing experiments that are losing, and propelling experiments that are winning into many different custom store listings.
Yeah, so what happened when we started to approach Phiture to develop this project? Everyone that runs ASO knows that it's a very laborious task. It takes a lot of time and manual work. There is mostly no APIs available. So we started with the reporting, which was like, how can we automatically update a spreadsheet or something that could keep all of our data in one place and be easy to handle. So this was like, how can we do it? Then also moving not only for the data, but for the learnings for each experiment itself, because each experiment tells a story, like the asset, what was tested against the control. So we really needed to have a way to centralize those learnings and not be only dependent of the person that ran the test and the person that actually created the asset. So how can we keep those learnings inside our team and inside the company itself? And on top of that, the automation, which is the part that to create the tests, to kill those tests very early. There's a very laborious task to create each variant separately. And this, for for someone that has a live portfolio of several games, it's really hard to actually manage all those titles and keep experiments running. So we really need to have this automation in hand to help us scale the operation, keep testing for different titles without necessarily increasing the overhead. And with all of this ground covered, it would be really nice for us to be able to scale, to test more things, scale our experiments based on new ideas to be more self-service in the sense of not depend only on the artist to create those hypotheses, to iterate on the hypothesis, create new assets. So it was what we really wanted to achieve and not depend on like having a long lead time to test something, test a hypothesis. So this was like the four main things that we wanted to achieve with this project. And yeah. Moving to the icon testing itself, why we started with the icons is and for Skywars itself, for two reasons. The icons is the most important asset in terms of ASO because the first thing that people see, and in most cases, is the first impression that they have. So it made sense for us to start with the visual assets for the icon. And Skywars was a game that we weren't being able to dedicate a lot of efforts. So it was hard for us to iterate, to create new assets. So we said, okay, let's use Skywars as a pilot. No pun intended. So to try and use it for the first round of tests. And as you can see, the results were terrible, but thankfully, since the automation was in hand, they were killed pretty fast. So we were able to, okay, let's move to another round with more signal. And then we found this win. And what was curious to see is that the HUD element was constant on all of those iterations and very aggressive. So something that's a new perspective that maybe we wouldn't be able to achieve if we were creating by ourselves. So the temperature, like having a very aggressive approach to it was something that was really interesting when we were testing those assets.
Yeah, and each of these rounds, you see in the first testing round, terrible results. I think we all got shocked a little bit by that. But the idea behind this is that we're building assistants that can learn over time on like these losses and wins that we're seeing in the icons. We're basically asking it to, for every icon test that we're running, like ask it the question, why did this icon lose over the current version? And what we're seeing, visibly saw with Wildlife Studios is that the hypothesis generation of that assistant and the designer briefs, which is then put into a Gen AI image generation, it's becoming better and better. And it's also why you're seeing kind of in that test round 2, which was weeks after the first results came in, you already see like much more positive signal in terms of conversion rate improvement, which then finally led to that big win. Yeah.
Yeah. Another type of asset that recently we started to test and found this 8% uplift was the Phiture graphic. So also very important, mostly only present on Google Play itself, but it's very interesting for us to see that we are able to test those hypotheses and create those type of assets with the PressPlay. So it's really cool.
Yeah, we can do this basically in any kind of localization. We've, I think, now touched on 30 different languages that we can generate short descriptions, for example, in. And really prime that also on the basis of like the user reviews, what are people raving about in positive user reviews, what are competitors using in terms of their messaging, and basically generates a ton of different experiments that we then had sent for approval to the Wildlife Studios team. And then basically we had a backlog of hundreds of different experiments in a matter of no time. And we keep refreshing those experiments as we're getting new learnings in from the experiments that we run. For me, actually, the Gen AI part is interesting, but it's not the most exciting part of the technology. I think actually the way that we're using Google Play Store listing experiments allows us actually to set up to 505 concurrent experiments per app. We don't get to that number. I think the max that we had was 56, but 56 experiments running at the same time, collecting learnings on different icons, on different feature graphics. That's actually where a lot of the secret sauce lays in. We also have a monitoring in place where we can, on the basis of early signals, can kill experiments or advance them to other custom store listings if we see promising results. And we kill experiments if we see, already a terrible result in the first couple of days, even if Google still says, like, okay, there's more data needed to get to statistical significance. We don't care. We want to kill that experiment and move on to the next experiment in the backlog. And because we have such an expansive backlog of hundreds of different experiments, we can also do that quite easily without having to, go through a round of brainstorming with designers, with analysts, with people working in the brand team around like new experiments. Now the Gen AI kind of component can actually fill up that backlog very quickly, and therefore having that monitoring in place and being a little bit ruthless with how we approach killing early experiments. Yes, sure, maybe there are some experiments that could have been a win if we would have let it ride for another week, but what we're really looking for is these breakout successes like that we've seen with the icon. And then the third is the AI assistant, really like learning from what works and what doesn't. I think that's where we see actually a lot of value coming from. And the way that works is, so basically the first time we start working with an app or a game, we initialize an assistant, we feed it with the positive user reviews, we feed it with competitor messaging, but we also feed it with things like target audience, branding guidelines of the app or the game, tone of voice, anything that, or maybe learnings that we're getting from user acquisition campaigns. So we basically put all of that information into the assistant so that it can really hit the ground running in that first batch of hypothesis generation, right? And the hypothesis generation that the assistant takes care of can not only create a great hypothesis, but also we then put that through the LLMs to generate copy, to generate visuals as well, which then go into our testing backlog. And that testing backlog is automatically picking up on new experiments. You can also prioritize the experiments based on your own gut feel of which of those experiments might actually really lead to a breakout effects, but otherwise they're just prioritized all equally, and the system is just picking up on those experiments and monitoring them and killing experiments that are not going in the right direction, or even applying experiments that hit all of the thresholds that you set. And then the learnings collector, I think that's the key part. What we've also seen with Wildlife Studios is like we really train the assistant over time to get better and better at predicting what a good hypothesis is for this type of game, what a good designer brief is. So it also learns to pick up on visual cues, on like how we should lay out the plane on the icon, etc. So it really learns a lot from that and gets to more and better results over time.
And after finding this rollout for Skywars, for our experiments that we run, we really want to understand what was the main element that actually drove the increase of the conversion rate. So initially, we looked at this icon and said, okay, maybe the plane is better than the one that we had. And we said, okay, let's do it without the HUD. And the results were not there. Then we moved to, okay, let's look at the HUD itself, that was more chaotic than the one that we had. And actually the results improved even more on top of the rollout that we found. And a discussion that we have with other teams is based on like, does those HUD elements actually pass an idea of low quality for the app? And to disprove that or to challenge that, we ran a survey, like more qualitatively, with the users, with 600 users, and with the tennis clash icon, like on top on the top right. And we had three options: one without the HUD, one with the chaotic HUD, let's say this way, and one with the one in the middle with HUDs. And the answer was actually that this icon with HUD passed the idea quickly that it's already a game, that they are looking at a game itself. So it was easy for them to understand and catch the idea that's not an app, it's actually a game. So it was surprising for us, and for this reason we now have this live on Tennis Clash and Sniper 3D, and we are testing for other games as well. So it was a cool finding that if we were trying by ourselves, maybe it would take longer to achieve this. So it was cool to have aggregate those learnings to another game from a game that's Skyward that's very specific, very niche, to a more mainstream games, let's say this way.
Yeah, and I really absolutely love that, how the wildlife team was picking up on these AI results, and then there's a design team going over, like trying to also beautify the icon, getting more learnings from it via the survey, and then really bring this to the rest of their portfolio as well. I think that's a really nice way of how AI and human interaction can evolve and can actually allow for more time to actually go deeper on things like surveying your users, which I found pretty ingenious around like why they actually gravitated towards this icon.
Yeah. Look, coming back to the problems that we stated before, so reporting, now we have everything in one place and now fully automated. We do not need to go and update each experiment for each variant with the data. The learnings, we have the learnings for the experiments itself that we run, and we are now talking about including like past experiments that we have for titles, for example, Sniper 3D, we have hundreds and hundreds of experiments that we can certainly use to generate more ideas. Automation, we all have those in one place. As Moritz said, we have a queue of tasks that we can select and just say, okay, this is priority 1, this is priority 5, and just leave it running. If something is more aggressive, then we can say, okay, stop this task with like only 1,000 installs, and if the performance diminished a lot. So it's now less overhead to create this. And also the scale experiments, we are able to iterate on games that we couldn't be able to dedicate resources. And so it's really interesting to see this happening for games like Skywars and now moving to more mainstream games that we have in our portfolio. So it's really interesting to see this.
Yeah, some other applications, and Becky is in the room with us today. So we actually just started with Adobe also on PressPlay. We're doing short description optimization with them, but also screenshot order experiments, an experiment that we're going to roll out in a couple of weeks' time, which we've also already done with a couple of the titles of Wildlife Studios. So it's really about like these 8 screenshots that you have in the Google Play Store. Are they actually in the right order of appeal to your gamers or users that are looking at figuring out like what the app can and cannot do, and ultimately leading to that click on the install button, which we track. The idea is really to understand like, are these in the right order of importance, or could we actually shuffle them in a smarter way where we can drive up conversion with an A/B test. So if you would test this, like you could of course brute force to test this, but if you have 8 different screenshots, you would actually end up with a lot of years of testing, and so that's not the right approach here. So we tried to figure out with our data team to figure out a way how we can approach this problem with what we call rapid tests. So we basically launch 20 different rapid tests with 3 variants each, to understand how are the first 2 screenshots. If we were just to have 2 screenshots in the Google Play Store listing, how are they performing relative to each other? Not so much relative to the current listing, but relative to each other. And then based on the combinations that we're making there, we are predicting what 9 variations we want to propel into actually a longer duration test. So we score each of the 800,000 possible permutations. We score all of them, and we run with the top 9 ones in the right order of sequence to drive more conversion rate based on what you already have in the store today. what are we working on? So one of the areas that we're definitely super excited about is the screenshot caption and background testing. So the idea is that you would be able to just upload a layered file like in Figma or in Photoshop to then being able to still display your screenshots as they are today, but then we basically update the copy automatically with Gen AI. So this would just be overlaid also in your own font. And we would also A/B test different backgrounds, for example, different background colors, different background imagery to really also make sure that we can touch screenshots, which is hard, right? Like Google and Apple are really both asking, like you have to show the app or the game actually in the UI that it is, so that it's also very clear to the user what they're getting into. But you can do a lot with marketing copy on top of those screenshots and different imagery that you put in the background. And then iOS support, of course, like we started with Google Play. First of all, I guess for wildlife, it's a very important platform, but also like we see actually that the testing solution that Google Play developed is a little bit more advanced than product page optimization on Apple. So we wanted to get that right first, but we're later in the year also going to roll out automated product page test automation. And I called out Phiture AI Labs something which I'm super excited about. So I started that program within the company around 9 months ago, and with basically our growth and insights team, which comprises of engineers, data scientists, data analysts, we basically pivoted a little bit towards like, hey, how can we drive really big impact for our clients on the top of the AI and automation. Things that also the LLM space actually were able to kind of create an opportunity for us in. And so a couple of things that came out of that program. So we actually had around 6 different proof of concepts that we launched last year. And one was like experiment insights at scale, where we basically look at all of the A/B tests that the market is running. And then we try to collect learnings from that, so that you can ask it questions like, okay, what are winning conversion tactics in my category in a specific country? So, for example, what are conversion tactics that work well in Japan in the health and fitness category? And that's coming to maturity. ASO, we have this in market now with two different clients and seeing really good results on that. A little bit more on the next slide. And then also a project that we've been working on for a long time was ASO keyword automation. So we truly believe that actually this problem of like manually researching keywords, prioritizing them, applying them throughout your metadata can actually now be solved in a much more kind of data-driven way, also jointly, of course, with the power of these LLMs. And so that's also a project that we've been working on. And then, of course, PressPlay, which we talked about today. So the ASO is a reinforcement learning model that we train on the back of historical Apple search ads bid change data. So whenever you're making a bid change in Apple search ads, that has, of course, an impact on like how much you're paying, how many impressions you're winning, your share of voice, all of that. And we're basically pulling in all of that data for our clients. We're training a model on that historical data, and then we let the model run through millions and millions of fake auctions, if you will. So we simulate what the Apple search ads auction would give in terms of results. We simulate competitors coming in and out of different auctions, and so the model receives like rewards for each of the bid increases and decreases it makes, and then the rewards are rewarded for like, are you able to scale the campaign? Are you able to drive a more return on ad spend for this particular keyword that you changed the bid on? And so this is super exciting technology that we have now in place with a few clients and driving really meaningful results with in terms of increasing the scale of these of the campaigns, but at a reduction actually in cost per acquisition. And that's something that we're also very excited by. Thanks, Matheus. It was super nice to do this together here. And thank you all for listening. If you want to know more about PressPlay or the Apple Search Ads machine learning bidding model that we built, please feel free to come by our booth. We're at number 544, which is basically in the middle lane at the very end. And we have a few places left for PressPlay in Q2. What we really want to do is actually really work with very smart folks like Matheus over here to really also give us product feedback, like things that you might have in mind, and to really accelerate like the roadmap and drive a lot of impact. And so we have a few places left, and we would love to start working with a few more clients. I think that's it.
Thank you, everyone.
From our end. Thank you.